welcome back. Okay, thanks first of all for your amazing comments in the last video. I really appreciate that. This is rolling along at a pace now. I'm thoroughly chuffed with the way this looks, and so much so that it has caused me to consider a major change of direction where this tailpiece is concerned. I did make the tail unit from 2 Harley-Davidson tanks, and it took me many months to make it, and I'm very, very proud of it indeed. But that doesn't mean to say that if it doesn't look right on the bike, as a fair few of you have said in casting your opinions, thank you for that, then I'm not going to necessarily let it spoil the bike. So I am going to have a rethink, a complete rethink on this tail end of the bike, purely because this just looks so cool. This big fat nasty looking back end, I just love it, and I want to accentuate it. I want it to take centre stage. Street Fighters ought to be brutal, they ought to look a bit scary, and I think when I put the tailpiece on, it does take on a kind of a milder look, a little bit calmer, and that's not what you want for a Street Fighter. So not sort of what yet, don't know what I'm going to do, plans thinking, screwing around up here, but once all of this cycle parts and painting and reassembling stuff is done, then I can focus back on the bodywork, and I've got some changes to make with the tank. If you remember, I took that top piece off. I've got a speedo mount to still make, and I said, just like I said there, I'm going to completely rethink this back end from scratch almost. It won't take a massive amount longer. It's not going to roll it on another year. It is actually going to be a focused part of the end of the build, as it were, and then after that is paintwork and off for a ride out, simple as that. So anyway, today, loads of chat. I'm going to move the straps to the front to clear this area. I'm going to reassemble the footrest hangers, all the controls, the foot controls. That means cleaning out loads of different threads that have all got paint in them, so cleaning them to make sure they're all good, new fasteners, all new pro bolts where possible, reassemble everything and clean threads where not possible to put new ones, and then get it all assembled in a meticulous and careful way so that then I can move on, tick that off and forget it. Anyway, that's too much chat. You want to see it happen, so let's get on with today's fun and games. Welcome back. Right, now you've all seen these, those little things there. You get them on your foot pegs to touch the ground and sense where it is, and all that stops your foot getting dragged underneath. But the previous owner's taken them off, discarded them, threads corroded up and went a bit manky, but they're all cleaned out nicely and the threads are perfect. Now I want to put some back in, and rather than just put bolts in there, which I think is going to look a bit rubbish, I'm going to use these. I've actually got a couple. These are old Harley ones from ages ago. I took them off one of the Harleys, and only because I've changed the foot pegs to foot boards, and the foot pegs themselves just they're in the drawer as well, and I've got these that were connected to them. So because they're ex-Harley, they're in big fat imperial threads, and they are little M6 threads. Now I guess I could drill that out and then tap it so that that then bolts in, logical, but then you're drilling out all this material, and these hit the ground and take the impact from the passing roadway. So I don't know whether machining or drilling any of that metal out is a good idea. Instead, I'm just going to grind those down on the sander nice and carefully, and then cut them as an M6 with a die, and then that will screw into the original thread. So we go. Wish me luck. Right, again, if you're going to do this yourself, this is what I'm doing with it. The bolt that fits in, that threaded M6 that fits in there, the actual width of it, the actual diameter of that is 5.83. So that's 5.83 mil is the overall bolt that I'm going to cut into. I've ground these down to, right, there we are, 5.84. That's the size of the peg. So I've ground that peg down to the exact size of that threaded bolt. Now just cut a thread in it. Right, there we are. Split shift again, go back to work in a bit, so that's as much as I can do for now. Good little session, really enjoyed that. I've got the rear sprocket properly bolted on now, properly torqued up to the correct torque pressure with the right locking stainless steel nuts, so they're correct and I can forget about those. A lot of other stuff I've done, thread locked in, all these footrest mounts thread locked in. Because they're stainless into alloy, you don't get that galvanic corrosion that holds them in, so I'm thread locking everything. All these stainless fasteners that are going into the frame and into mounting things, they're all getting thread locked in. And when it comes to things like stainless bolts and stainless fasteners, they just need that little tiny bit more consideration. That's slightly different than the way they work with zinc bolts. So all of that's now permanently fitted. The rear caliper needs to be rebuilt, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I've got new bolts to mount it and new bolts to bolt the halves together, so I'm going to strip the halves apart, clean it all out, put new pads in it to go with the brand new discs, nice sintered copper pads, and then rebuild the whole thing, put it back together and re-bleed it through again. As far as this is concerned, I'm not going to worry too much about this because that's going. I'm going to put just a little tube on there, possibly a little reservoir. I've got some little dinky plastic reservoirs, I might just put a little ditty one there, not sure, but that old thing, that's going because the whole tail is going. I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to build a frame from scratch and do something all new, all different once all of this is done. So that's why I'm cracking on with this, because I want to get to that a lot. And I think the support that I'm getting from you is driving me along. That really does help. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for all your kind comments. It's just one session after another, trying to move forward all the time. Next, I've got to put the chain on and rivet the chain in place, and then I can deal with the chain guard. I've got a chain guard, a universal one. I want to kind of make something a bit cool out of that. I've got to make some brackets to mount it, so a little bit of fabrication there, and that will be to come. So there we are. I think that's all for now. Can't do much more. So thank you for watching. Take it easy, ride safe, and I'll see you next time.